The Haunting of Redwood House. It all started when Alex and his girlfriend Rachel moved into a small rental house in the quiet town of Redwood. It was an old house built in the 1920s with creaky wooden floors and dimly lit hallways. But the price was too good to pass up. Excited for their fresh start, Alex, a video editor, decided to document their life together. He set up cameras around the house, capturing their daily activities, unaware of what they were about to witness. Night 1. The first signs. The first few nights were peaceful, but on the third night, at exactly 3:12 a.m., a strange sound echoed through the house, a faint scraping noise, like fingernails dragging across the wooden walls. Rachel woke up, her heart pounding. She nudged Alex awake, but by the time he listened, the house was silent. The next morning, Alex reviewed the footage. As the camera in the hallway recorded, the bedroom door slowly creaked open on its own, then suddenly slammed shut. There was no wind, no explanation. Must be the old hinges, Alex shrugged. Night 4, the shadows move. Rachel started feeling uneasy. She swore she saw shadows shifting in the hallway even when no one was there. The dog, Milo, would stand at the foot of the stairs, barking at something unseen. That night, the bedroom camera caught something terrifying. At 2:59 a.m., Rachel sat up suddenly in bed, her head tilting unnaturally to the side, her breath slow and shallow. She remained frozen for 5 full minutes before lying back down. The next morning, she had no memory of it. Alex, growing concerned, placed more cameras in different rooms. That night, deep guttural whispers filled the air, captured by the cameras but unheard by them at the time. "They're here. They're watching." The words were indistinct, yet chilling. Night 7. The scratches. Rachel woke up screaming, clawing at her arms. Deep red scratches marked her skin, as if something unseen had raked its fingers across her flesh. Alex, now completely terrified, tried to rationalize it. Maybe she scratched herself in her sleep. But the camera footage told another story. At 3:33 a.m., the blanket was yanked off the bed by an invisible force. Rachel's body lifted slightly before dropping back down. Something was in the room with them. Night 10. The possession. The house's atmosphere turned oppressive. Rachel became distant, her eyes dark and sunken. She started whispering to herself, words in an unknown language. Alex found her standing at the top of the stairs at night, staring at the darkness below. One evening, Alex left for work, but when he returned, he found Rachel sitting in the middle of the living room, eyes rolled back, mumbling. The dog was cowering in the corner, whining. When Alex approached, she lunged at him with unnatural speed, screaming in a voice not her own. Night 13, the end. Alex, now desperate, called a paranormal expert. The man arrived, took one step inside, and immediately froze. "You need to leave. Now." That night was their last in the house. The cameras caught everything. At exactly 3 a.m., the bedroom door burst open. A tall, shadowy figure stood in the doorway, its hollow eyes locked onto the couple. Rachel levitated off the bed, her body convulsing as an inhuman shriek filled the room. Alex tried to grab her, but she was pulled away, disappearing into the darkness. Then the camera feed cut. When the police arrived the next morning, they found Alex alone in the house. His body curled in the corner, mumbling Rachel's name over and over. She was never found. The only thing left behind was the footage, which no one dared to watch till the end. The demon named Victor. This may sound strange, but bear with me. When I was in high school, there was a guy who claimed he was a demon. I don't even feel comfortable writing his real name for reasons you will soon understand. Let's just call him Victor, though his real name sounded like something out of an ancient incantation. He was extremely socially awkward and always walked around with an empty, detached gaze that even made teachers uneasy. He wore the same dark hoodie every single day without exception. I'm not exaggerating. I'm pretty sure he never washed it because he always smelled musty and unpleasant. He was short and looked rather ordinary, though it was hard to tell since he always wore his hood up and never took off his sunglasses, even indoors. The teachers eventually stopped asking him to remove them because he never listened anyway. Now, here's where things get weird. He didn't have friends, but he had a strange habit of adopting people. That meant if he chose you, he would walk up to you and say, "You are adopted." This meant that you were now part of his circle and were safe from him, or something else. At least, that's what he claimed. He didn't adopt people often, so there were only a few of us. Looking back, I think he might have just had a crush on me. But then there were the others, the ones he didn't adopt. Strange things happened to them. One guy, Dan, constantly made fun of Victor, calling him a freak. After one of his usual taunts, he suddenly collapsed in the hallway. When he came to, he just kept repeating, "He came for me. He came for me." His parents transferred him to another school within a week. We didn't believe his demon talk and just thought he was a troubled kid, which he certainly was. One day, while joking around with my friends, we said his real name 3 times. He appeared out of nowhere, holding a baseball bat. It wasn't scary in a conventional sense, but it was deeply unsettling. From that moment on, we knew he wasn't someone to mess with. Then I started noticing weird things. Victor could appear in unexpected places, even if I was sure he hadn't been there a second earlier. One day I was walking home from school and noticed him following me about 10 steps behind. I quickened my pace and so did he. I ran, so did he. I turned a corner and he was gone. Just vanished. One night I was at my friend's house and we said his name 3 times again. 10 minutes later, Victor stormed into the house. When her mother asked what he was doing there, he simply replied, "I was summoned." This happened multiple times until we swore never to say his name 3 times again. The most terrifying moment occurred when I was home alone, and a friend, skeptical of our stories, shouted his name 3 times. Almost immediately, a thunderstorm began, and in the window I saw a silhouette watching me. Later, I found his hoodie in my backyard, wrapped around my belongings, items I thought had been lost for years. But the worst night was prom night. Everyone was at a party, and Victor hadn't been invited. Someone joked about saying his name 3 times aloud. 5 minutes later, the power went out, phones lost their signal, and footsteps echoed through the darkness. A raspy voice whispered, "Who called me?" Panic spread. People ran for the door, but it wouldn't open. Only minutes later, everything stopped. The lights flickered back on. Phones worked again. And on the living room wall, scratched into the paint, was a message. "Don't call me unless you're ready to meet me." Since then, Victor disappeared. No one ever saw him again. Sometimes I wonder where he is. And I wait for the day he appears again, right behind me. The Marked Child. Jason and Emily had always wanted a second child. Their firstborn, Daniel, was growing up fast, and they dreamed of expanding their family. When they found out they couldn't conceive again, they decided to adopt. They scoured agencies for months until they were matched with a little girl named Lily. She was 6 years old, small for her age, with pale skin and dark, piercing eyes. Her caseworker explained that Lily had no known relatives. Her only surviving family, an elderly grandmother, had given her up before disappearing without a trace. Excited to give her a loving home, Jason and Emily welcomed Lily with open arms. At first, everything seemed normal. She was quiet, well-mannered, and never caused trouble. But then little things started happening. The dog refused to go near her, growling whenever she entered the room. Daniel, once enthusiastic about having a sister, began withdrawing, complaining about horrible nightmares. Lily never seemed to sleep. Emily would wake in the middle of the night to find her standing in the hallway watching them. When asked why, she simply said, "I don't like when they whisper to me." "Who?" Emily asked uneasily. Lily's dark eyes flickered. "The ones in the walls." "The shadows stir." One night, Emily found strange symbols drawn in charcoal under Lily's bed. Circles, jagged shapes, and an eerie spiral at the center. When questioned, Lily said it was to keep them away. Jason dismissed it as childish nonsense, but Emily couldn't shake the growing dread in her stomach. Then Daniel changed. Bruises appeared on his arms, and he became distant, speaking only in whispers. "She's not Lily. he muttered one evening. "She's something else." Emily's nerves frayed. Objects moved on their own. The air felt heavier in Lily's presence. At night, Emily and Jason heard scratching inside the walls, a sound that grew louder each night. And then Daniel disappeared. The ritual. They found him in the attic, eyes wide in terror, unable to speak. Burnt markings covered the floor around him. Lily stood in the doorway, staring at them. "I tried to stop them, but it's too late now." Emily grabbed Daniel and ran. Jason followed, but the house groaned, the walls shifting as if something was waking up inside them. The lights flickered and died. A whisper came from the darkness. "She's ours now." Emily turned to grab Lily, but she was smiling. Her small hands stretched unnaturally long, her pupils completely black. "You shouldn't have taken me. I belong to them. And now, so do you." The last thing Emily saw before the world went dark was Lily's face twisting into something inhuman, her grin stretching too wide for any human child. The final night, Jason woke up to a terrible weight on his chest. He gasped for air, but a cold hand covered his mouth. His eyes darted around the dark bedroom. Emily lay beside him, eyes wide open but unblinking. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. Then he heard it. A giggle from the foot of the bed. Lily stood there, her head tilted at an unnatural angle, her black eyes gleaming in the moonlight. She whispered something, and the air grew thick and suffocating. Jason tried to move, but his body wouldn't obey. Emily suddenly screamed, a horrible choking sound, as she was yanked off the bed by invisible hands. Jason struggled, his lungs burning for air, until finally the grip on his mouth released. He stumbled off the bed, reaching for Emily, but she was gone. The walls shivered and cracked, shadows bleeding from the corners of the room. Lily laughed, her voice echoing from all around. Jason ran toward the door, but it slammed shut on its own. The scratching in the walls became deafening, 1,000 whispers chanting in a language he didn't understand. Then something crawled out from the darkness. A twisted figure, elongated limbs bending the wrong way, hollow eyes staring right through him. It grinned, revealing rows of jagged teeth, and lunged. The next morning, the house was silent. When the neighbors noticed the family's abandoned car in the driveway, they knocked on the door. No one answered. The police broke in and found nothing. The beds were untouched. Breakfast was set on the table, plates filled with food that had rotted overnight. But on the wall of the living room, scratched deep into the wood, were 4 words. Lily brought them home.